as we do every Friday this time. Let's look at our good friend Allan Bell from CBS SportsLine. Allan, again, I tell you this each week, but I follow you on Twitter, and you're busy nonstop.
Yeah, I am. First off, let me say I appreciate you having me back. Yeah, I just like to be in the conversation with anybody who's talking sports betting, whether they're in Tennessee or in another state. Like, I just enjoy it because, it's something that we all get to do together collectively against the books. And also, let me also say this. Whoever wrote that Buddy Allen jingle is the Michael Jordan of writing jingles. Like, that, it is fantastic. Like, I absolutely love it. Every time I hear it, man, like, I just sing it in my head, and it puts me in a good mood the rest of the day.
Oh, absolutely. I was singing it yesterday, and the intern's like, how do you know this? I'm like, how do I not know this? If you grew up in Tennessee, that commercial is inside of you forever.
It is. It's just so wholesome. Like, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Did you grow up here, Allan?
Yeah.
You're a Mount Juliet boy?
Correct, sir.
Oh, yeah. Wilson County, man. Bringing it home.
Yes, sir.
Allan, I had to laugh because, again, we see more and more people hopping on the sports betting and watching the Daytona 500, all the chaos, and seeing people tweet out, oh, my God, I was going to win, and my driver wrecked. Betting and gambling for the Daytona 500, to me, took it to a whole nother level. Am I wrong on this?
No. You're absolutely correct, right? Like, if we go back to, I guess, 2020, during the, kind of the COVID when, all sports were stopped, NASCAR and golf were really the first ones to come back. And coupled with sports betting and coming back first, NASCAR picked up a ton of new fans and new audiences. And yes, the sports betting is a massive part of that. And we see on social media live during races how much fun people are enjoying a great sport, right? So I absolutely love it. And like, that's a cool thing that sports betting really does, is that it does open you up, to different sports or different teams that you might not have paid attention to before.
I want to ask you, because people talk about, betting on the NBA and all that goes on. And I was reading one guy who said he's making a killing off mid-major betting on college basketball. And so I had to go and look, and I pulled up some games on here. I mean, we always get, especially with me, Allan, you're like, oh, NFL and the big, huge games. But a lot of people are betting on these games that are under the radar. Why are these games so popular?
Well, because you think about, okay, if you ran a sports book, right? And let's just say that you have 100 people, in the room working on these numbers, right? Well, you're going to focus on the sports and the teams and the games, that draw the most interest, right? The Super Bowl, the Masters, Daytona 500, right? Like, you might not be paying attention to, Lipscomb, at Murray State, right? Belmont at Murray State, right? Like, just because there's just so many games and so many things going on. So absolutely, like, your friend is absolutely correct. Like, you can find a ton of value there. I'll give you an interesting nugget right here. That shirt that you have on right there, MTSU, right now, MTSU men's basketball is the number one team in the country against the spread in terms of their record. Number one. They are phenomenal for bettors. Everyone across the country has been quietly loving MTSU because they don't want to give the secret away to everybody else.
That's why you're here, Allan. I mean, nobody has that nugget, what you just told me right there. But if you're going to put money on these mid-major games, like I'm looking at, Harvard, Princeton tonight, I mean, you need to do your research, don't you?
Oh, for sure, right? Like, you definitely want to, have watched the teams, understand what they're going into. What is the situation with where we sit right now? We've got conference tournaments coming up here pretty soon, March Madness coming up. Which teams are fighting for their lives? Which teams have basically already secured the number 1 or number 2 seed in the conference tournament? They might not care. Another team literally fighting for their lives, right? So that absolutely matters. Also, when you go through these spreads, understand that these are all, conference teams that are playing against each other. And when you look at, say, a team that's favored by 7.5, right? Like, think of that in terms of possessions. Okay, that's 4 possessions that you need to win. And in college, these mid-majors, you don't necessarily always get high scores. So the lower the score, the more possessions that you need, you're adding risk to your table.
Look at you. I don't know why somebody doesn't just hire you as a personal aid in sports gambling, because, man, you know it all. All right, let's talk NBA now. Of course, the NFL's gone and baseball's not started yet. We've got NHL, but so a lot of people are doing college basketball, but the NBA. And, Allan, I was looking at this before you coming on. There's no rhyme or reason to how the NBA plays out. Maybe I'm just an amateur looking at this. I know if you dive deeper into it, there's some sort of a rhyme or reason that goes on. But for some of these, I mean, it's got to be a motivation to win a game on a Monday night where there's 3,000 people in the stands.
Yeah, you know what? I'll give you a perfect example. Okay, so last night the Golden State Warriors played, right? It was the first night back after the NBA All-Star break. And Steph Curry, the Warriors won, covered. I think they won by 26 or 27, a large number. And Steph Curry was saying it right after the game, during the interviews. He's like, we've only got, 22 games left. Like, now is the time to turn it on. So you're going to see these teams that are prime position, for playoff spots, they're going to start going, where you're also going to see teams that are pretty much already out of it. They're going to start using more bench players, right? Who do they have that they can bring up for 10-day contracts, looking at the roster for next year? So yeah, understanding where you're at in the season, that will give you, the best kind of advantage that you're going to find right now.
I was clicking on, and you see the MMA, I'm on the BetMGM board right now, all that's going on. And I mean, we talked about the first time you came on, Allan, you literally can bet on anything, anywhere, at any time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Right. Like I'm in a group text with guys who are putting in plays. They're like, hey, I'm going to ride this darts game. I'm like, betting darts. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's so funny, but yeah, I mean, you literally can, you could bet on anything, even if you can't pronounce the league or the team names because it's in another country. Yeah, you absolutely can.
I'm on this in the UFC MMA page, and Danny McCormick's fighting Stephanie Page at 3:00 this afternoon.
Yeah, isn't that great? That's also another thing that's been fun the last year and a half, is that we've seen so many sports that understood that there's more people working from home, the COVID situation, etc. And they've started to change around times, right? Of you know what? There's a lot of people at the house at 2:00. Let's run our sport. We don't have to go up against Monday Night Football, right? I love that. We're seeing leagues and teams and sports get really creative with it.
All right, our MLS starts this weekend. The Nashville SC gets out there, and I know that's a lot of people. We've talked about betting with your heart or betting smart with soccer. I see a lot of people also as well, Allan, getting into the MLS, and I think part of this is because of sports gambling. People want to gamble and bet, and so more eyeballs are on the MLS now.
Big time. Absolutely. These sports books and sports betting in general is helping these sports leagues and teams so much. That's why you see them, teams literally partner with sports books, right? And you look at, all the different ways that you can bet on the, Seattle Nashville SC game that, even if you're just getting into soccer, right? You understand the game, you understand the lines and everything right there, but you might not be as big of a fan yet as you are, say, the Titans or, something like that. It'll bring you in and you get fired up. So yeah, I just really love that aspect that a lot of people are getting to know and understand sports that they might not have, previously.
If you want to take I have no idea how to read this stuff, and we're not going to get into it because that might take me 5 hours to figure it out. But if you want the Nashville SC to win, these numbers -1, I mean, I'm used to look at the football numbers. I can't figure this out.
Yeah. So really quickly, right? So minus, is the favorite, plus is the underdog here. And you'll see, you've got the 2.5 right there. So that means that's the over or under in terms of goals scored, in the match. And then you'll also see, draws, right? Are you going to bet on both teams to tie? So yeah, there's a lot of different ways to go about doing it and go about betting it. And yeah, you got it pulled up right here. So yeah, Sounders -115, tie +250, Nashville +290. So that means that Vegas thinks that Seattle's going to win this game pretty heavily if Nashville SC is a +290.
Vegas loves people like me, Allan, because I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, I'll tell you this. So that number right there, that 290, that means if you bet $100 on Nashville SC to win, and they do, you get paid $290 out. Okay. Seattle -115, you would have to bet $115 to win 100.
Oh, that just seems that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
That is.